There are many kinds of silence in the galaxy. There's the silence of dead moons, drifting aimless through frozen starfields. The silence of derelict stations, echoing with whispers of what once was. And then, there's the silence inside the war hole of the Zaltun Empire, an unnatural, coiled stillness, like the breath before a god speaks. Then the laughter began. It erupted like volcanic fire, rolling through the cavernous chamber carved from obsidian and bone. Warlord Varzek threw back his massive head and roared, his tusks gleaming with thick saliva as he slammed a four-fingered fist on the feasting table. The others joined in, 22 alien warlords, each more grotesque and monstrous than the last, bellowing with cruel amusement. The noise shook chandeliers made of star basilisk fangs and cracked the crystalline armor of terrified servants hiding behind curtains. A holographic projection hovered in the center of the table. It showed a grainy image, a lone figure in a black void suit, walking steadily across the burnt plains of Icarus 7, head bowed, shoulders squared, a rifle slung across his back. This, Varzek sneered, spitting phlegm onto the polished stone, is the best your intelligence network could find. General Trask, a pale-skinned bureaucrat from the Imperial Fleet, stiffened. He is not just any human, my lord. He is known in the outer rings as... Known, spat Woledi Kiasa, her 6 crimson eyes narrowing. For what? Looking sad? Wearing black armor? Murdering a few scavengers? More laughter. The image zoomed in. There were no insignias on the man's armor. No clan, no nation, no flag. Just a featureless mask and the cold posture of someone who had buried everything they ever loved and kept walking anyway. Varzek leaned forward, claws clinking against a goblet carved from the skull of a star whale. Let me make this clear, Trask. I fed earthlings to my hounds. I've watched their homeworld burn through my telescope while drinking their emperor's blood. They are a weak, broken species. And this thing, you think he can reach Zexar Prime? I don't think he's trying, Trask murmured. That quieted the room. A dangerous quiet. The kind of quiet that made even monsters lean closer. Trask licked his lips. He's not trying to infiltrate. He's not hiding. He's walking straight through our outposts, one by one, always toward the core worlds. He's already dismantled 3 strike teams. No survivors. You think we fear some Oathrat with gun. Warlord Kruthak barked, his jaws dripping acidic venom. Let him come. Let him try. I'll rip the flesh from his bones and make him watch while I grind his teeth to dust. The warlords roared again, stamping their armored boots on the stone. The war hole flashed with pulsing light from the torches lining the walls, flames fueled by the liquefied minds of psychic captives. And still, in the center, the assassin's image remained unchanged. That same stillness, that same quiet defiance. No face, no name, just a walking death. Far above them, on the outer edge of the star system, a black shuttle pierced the ionosphere like a dagger through skin. Silent, shielded, purposeful. Inside, the assassin sat in total darkness, listening to the ship hum, one finger tapping steadily on the grip of his rifle. One beat, one breath, one more step closer. He remembered the screams of Luna 9 as it fell, the stench of his sister's body crushed beneath rubble, the whimpering of children in the cryopods that never opened. All of it. He had carved every memory into the marrow of his soul. He didn't fight for revenge. He fought because the galaxy had forgotten what fear felt like. He intended to remind it. Back on Zexar Prime, the warlords were toasting themselves again, gulping down vats of liquid meat from conquered species. Music thudded through the floor, if you could call it music. It was more like controlled screaming fed through machines and burned into rhythmic pulses. Some of the younger heirs danced to it, awkward, blood-slick movements, limbs twitching with chemical highs. Security officers stood by the walls, half asleep, their neural implants dull from overclocked entertainment streams. No one noticed that 2 of the sentry drones were no longer transmitting. No one noticed the gas leaking from the lower vents, odorless, invisible, and carefully tailored to bypass alien lungs while short-circuiting synthetic life. And still, the warlords laughed. They laughed at the idea of a man, just one, challenging them. They laughed at the ghosts they had created. They laughed too long. In the bowels of the city, deep beneath the fortress towers, a door opened where no door should exist. The air changed. Quietly, one of the Imperial guards looked up, blinking. He thought he saw a flicker, like heat distortion in the corner of his vision. Then something slammed into his throat, something cold and fast. He gurgled, dropping to his knees, blood bubbling from his mouth. A second guard turned and shouted, only to have his jaw torn clean off by a kinetic blade. The assassin moved like a shadow, not fast, just precise. Every step mattered. Every kill was silent. 3 more guards fell. No alarms, no screaming, just a whisper of motion. And then, stillness again. Above, in the war hall, Varzek held up a glass. To the future, he declared, his eyes wild. To the eternal rule of the Zaltuun. May our A's grind the bones of 10,000 worlds and make wine from the marrow. They all cheered. None of them noticed the change in the air. None of them heard the silent countdown begin on a device planted beneath the table moments ago, while they were laughing. 5, 4. The image of the assassin on the hologram flickered. 3. A new image replaced it. Live feed. He was inside the war palace. Walking. Calm. Blood dripping from his blade. 2. The laughter stopped. 1. The center table exploded, sending bone shards and plasma fire in all directions. Warlady Kiyosas screamed as her arm was incinerated. Varzek stumbled back, face scorched, eyes wide in shock. Smoke filled the chamber. From the smoke, a voice spoke, not loud, but razor-sharp. You should have listened. And then the gunfire began. The smell of scorched flesh lingered in the air like perfume in a tomb. Shattered bone, blood, smoke, and silence, where once the most feared warlords in the galaxy feasted and roared in arrogance, now lay wreckage, splintered tables, broken bodies, and the whimper of those too slow to die quickly. Varzek crawled, trailing blood across the floor like a slug. His left leg was gone, torn off by the blast. One tusk shattered. His breaths came in wheezing gasps. He looked up and froze. A shadow moved through the smoke. Not running, not charging, walking, measured, calm. From the haze, he emerged, armor black as starlight, splashed with crimson that was not paint. His mask still glowed faintly red. No insignia, no words, just a man, if he even was a man, standing amidst the corpses of titans. Why, you monster, Varzek rasped. The assassin said nothing. Instead, he lifted his weapon. Not a gun, not a blade, exactly. Something older, something crafted. The hilt shimmered with etched symbols, some human, some alien, some forbidden. When the blade emerged, it did not shine. It absorbed light, a sword of void matter, rare as a living god, humming with entropy itself. Varzek raised a trembling claw. Wait, please. I have secrets. I can give. The assassin stepped forward and, with one smooth stroke, ended Varzek's line forever. Not brutal, not emotional, efficient. He didn't take trophies. He didn't smile. He simply turned and walked through the fire toward the shattered gates of the palace and vanished into the tunnels like a ghost made of purpose. They called him a myth. They called him a virus, a shadow, a lie told to scare commanders into tighter patrols. Some said he was a result of a failed Terran bioweapon program. Others swore he was one of the Ark children, those whispered about in refugee slums as God-touched killers. But the truth was simpler. He was a man, a human man. And once, his name had been Elias Creed. Long ago, before the fall, before Earth was turned into slag and its moon colonies ground into nutrient paste by the machines of the Zaltuun. Before his wife's screams were cut short by orbital fire. Before his son's tiny, shaking hand slipped from his. He never screamed. He never wept. He buried them all, beneath rubble, beneath styes, beneath memory. Then he disappeared. Not into hiding, into training. On the asteroid monasteries of Echo 5, he learned silence from monks who had not spoken in 400 years. They taught him to listen, to air, to breathing, to intention itself. In the solar forges of Io's Resistance Enclave, he reshaped weapons from star-forged alloys and memory metal. He studied void-reactive compounds and made them bleed when cut. On the drifting wreck of the ship Namae, orbiting a dead neutron sun. He meditated for 17 days beside a corpse that would not decay. There, he carved his final weapon. The blade had no name. Like him, it didn't need one. After Zexar Prime, the galactic sectors reeled. At first, the news was buried. Official channels claimed a malfunction, a terrorist sabotage. But stories leaked. Mercenaries who survived with missing limbs and trembling voices told tales of a man who moved like death and killed without hesitation. The military mobilized. Strike teams were dispatched. Patrols quadrupled. And still, he moved closer. Each colony he passed was left in silence. Not destroyed. Purged. Corruption severed. Slave systems dismantled. Elites executed. And always the same sign left behind. You forgot what fear was. I'm here to remind you. They called him the Nameless Blade. On the crimson moon of Traskai, 2 bounty hunters waited inside a carbon bar cantina. One of them, a burly insectoid named Vrelock, ran a finger across his rifle with jittery fingers. The other, a human named Wex, leaned back with cybernetic eyes scanning local feeds. "Here's just one guy," Wex muttered. "I've taken out rogue AIs. Hell, I hunted a gamma beast once." Vrelock hissed, "Rogue AIS don't stab you in the dark. Gamma beasts don't breathe down your spine." "You're scared?" "No," the alien said. "I'm smart." Just then, the lights flickered for exactly 3 seconds. When they came back on, Vrelock was dead, his head caved in, his rifle gone. Wex didn't even scream. There was no time. He saw only red. And then, nothing. Meanwhile, high above the central Zaltoon capital world of Zerak, the Imperial Heir watched a dozen feeds at once from his throne of coils and bone. The Heir, Calderon, stood 12 feet tall and had been bred, engineered, and sculpted for one purpose: war. He was muscle and venom, intellect and rage. Triple hearts beat within his chest, sync with a rhythm of conquest. His skin was reinforced with bioplated scales harvested from extinct beasts. He was not afraid of death. Until now, on every screen, footage of failure. Strike teams shredded. Watchtowers breached. Entire outposts wiped clean. One man, alone, moving with purpose. Leaving no trail, no witnesses. Calderon slammed a claw into the console, splitting it. "He's coming for me," he growled. "He thinks I'm the prize." Behind him, his advisors trembled. "We should relocate, my lord. Activate contingency." "Silence," the Heir snapped. "I am the future of the Zaltoon Empire. I am bred of steel and slaughter. If this thing wants to challenge me, let him come. Let him try." But in the dark, something inside Calderon twitched. A whisper of doubt, a ghost of fear. The Nameless Blade was not a soldier. He was a storm. Deep within the cargo decks of a stolen freighter, Elias cleaned his blade. It didn't need maintenance, but rituals mattered. He didn't pray. He didn't meditate. He polished the metal, sharpened the edge, and loaded his weapons with cold precision. He didn't flinch when he applied nano-bindings to his wounded shoulder or cauterized a laceration with a plasma thread. Pain was irrelevant. So was exhaustion. What mattered was momentum. He had killed 9 warlords. That left 13. Then the Heir. He closed his eyes. He could still hear his son's laughter, echoing in memory, brighter than any sun. They laughed at the wrong man. Now they would bleed. The vault of Krakdar was not a place. It was a statement. Carved into the heart of Zerak-Ka's largest mountain, sealed in blackstone reinforced by no-gravity columns and quantum lattice threads, it held the most sacred thing in the Empire. Not data, not wealth, but lineage. The Imperial A. Calderon, the scourge-blooded, the born warrior, the razor breath of the 5th Hive. He stood within the chamber's inner sanctum, his breath steady, coiling across his 7 nostrils as he stared at the training arena's far wall. The wall was not blank. It pulsed, feeding data, combat footage, kill stats, and always, now, one recurring figure, the Nameless Blade. He watched the footage in silence, re-watched it, analyzed it, slowed it down, studied the assassin's stance, his angle of movement, the way he never wasted breath, never flinched, never spoke. His silence is louder than your boasting, Kale's mind whispers hissed. These were not delusions. These were the genetic echoes of former A's, implanted memories from thousands of years of conquest. He fights like death, one voice murmured. He remembers pain, another added. Kale toned, his tail slamming the floor like a whip. His mortal. Yes, came the whisper, but has chosen not to care. That thought gnawed deeper than any weapon. Above, in the towers of Zerak K, sirens wailed in descending sequence. Security officers ran in synchronized pace, heavy exosuits glinting with red sigils of the Imperial Guard. Orbital cannons spun in real-time calibration, targeting any anomaly larger than a bird. Yet somehow, he got through. The assassin had arrived. First, the signal station on the moon went dark. Then the outer docking ports. Then the storm ramparts. The last footage then showed 3 bodies with no blood, no screams, just clean, quiet death. He was inside the shield perimeter now, the strongest defense in the sector, and he walked like he knew they couldn't stop him. Commander Rexa led an elite platoon of the Dagger Brood, 50 genetically augmented death machines bred for speed and savagery. She was a nightmare in obsidian armor, her eyes sibeling to every drone in the capital. As the security grid flared red, she snapped orders. Lock down quadrants A through D, triple the perimeter. Drone nets active. Kill switches on override. A lieutenant stepped forward, helmet trembling in his grip. The blade just crossed quadrant C. Rexa turned, slowly. What? He nodded, pale. The internal tracker caught him, 4 levels deep, inside the perimeter, inside the sanctum arc. He has already breached the guard line. Impossible. Unless, the lieutenant whispered, he's not trying to hide. The air felt the shift in the air before the alarms reached him. He smelled it. Change. Static. Metal. Inevitable. He looked up as 2 of his guards, a fused pair of warbeasts called Twinblood, tensed. My lord, one half rasped, we must move you. Kale bayed his fangs. I will not run. He wants legacy. Let him bleed for it. Outside the vault, layer after layer of defense engaged. Laser walls, flame corridors, pulse sentries with predictive targeting algorithms, rooms that folded space, defense AI. He walked through all of it. It was not just his skill. It was how he moved. He didn't hesitate. He didn't test. He knew, as if he had studied their layout years ago, or had seen this exact battle in a dream, down to the flicker of a hallway light. Guards attacked. He disarmed 3 in one breath, snapped the 4th spine, and slid through the 5th gunfire like a ghost. When he moved, the world bent. One Dagger Brood soldier caught him from behind, grappling hard. Got him, the soldier shouted. A second later, his throat burst open, not from a blade, but from pressure. The assassin had shifted his body just so, driving his shoulder under the chin and snapping cartilage with perfect force. He never stopped walking. He never stopped walking. Kale Juron stood in full armor now, a colossus of fury and calculation. The blade on his back was forged from the bone of the first Sun Eater. His claws were molecular edged, his breath laced with neurotoxins. He had killed commanders in the womb and eaten star from orbit. He was not afraid, but he understood the stakes. He turned to Twinblood. Hold the hallway. The fused warriors nodded, stumping out of the sanctum. Their bodies glowed with built-in weaponry, shrieking as armor plates rotated into combat formation. The hallway turned red. Then it turned quiet. Not silent, quiet. There's a difference. Silence is absence. Quiet is tension. And then, Steel screamed. Twinblood lunged. One half roared, sending seismic waves down the corridor, shattering marble. The other fired heat needles faster than thought. The assassin slid forward, low, almost prone, then up, inside the arc, elbow first, cracking a jaw, twisting the larger head backward with impossible torque. The twin body staggered, but didn't fall. Then he leapt, not at them, but past. Midday, he tossed a grenade into the mouth of the weapon core mounted on the chest. Boom! The body collapsed, twitching, smoldering. Kale Juron watched through live feed, unmoving. The assassin walked into view, step by step, smoke curling from his shoulders. Kale's voice came like gravel grinding into glass. "You think you're the first who tried." The assassin didn't answer. Kale activated the final lockdown sequence. The floor sealed behind them. Walls thickened to full battle mode. No escape. No reinforcements. This was no longer a fortress. It was an arena. The clash was instant. Kale lunged, claws screaming through the air. The assassin ducked under one strike, parried the second with his void blade, then lashed out with a kick that would have broken any human's bones. Kale staggered, not from pain, but surprise. The assassin pressed forward. Slash, jab, feint, reverse. Every move was precise. Minimal, but devastating. Kale struck back, tail sweeping, claws flashing. One swipe caught the assassin's shoulder, slicing through armor. Blood sprayed. He didn't cry out, didn't flinch. He twisted inside the strike and rammed his knee into Kale's chest, where one of the triple hearts pulsed. A crack echoed. Kale roared in pain for the first time in years. They danced through death, a god of war and a man with nothing to lose. Kale drove the assassin backward with raw force, slamming him into a pillar. The assassin countered with a headbutt so savage it cracked Kale's visor. "Why won't you die?" Kale hissed. The assassin answered, finally, voice dry, cold. "You killed my name. Now you live with what's left." He hurled a micro-grenade into Kale's chest cavity. The air batted it aside, but too late. It exploded. Fire, sound, smoke. Kale crashed to one knee, armor scorched. The assassin advanced, blade drawn. Kale raised his arms to fight. And the screen, watching across every command deck, every war room, cut to black. Darkness. Smoke coiled like dying serpents in the shattered sanctum. Metal groaned above, wounded by its own silence. Somewhere deeper, behind the blackened walls of the Imperial Vault, a fire crackled quietly, as if embarrassed by its survival. Then, a cough. Wet. Sharp. The assassin rose first. His body screamed. Blood leaked from his ribs in sluggish pulses. One arm hung limply at his side, dislocated. His left boot was gone. The nanofiber armor across his chest was scorched, fused into skin. But his eyes burned. Through the haze, Kale Geron stood, barely. His right arm was gone from the elbow down. His crown of thorns lay shattered at his feet. A third of his breathing gills pulsed irregularly, each inhale a rattling sob of pain. His triple heart stuttered. "And still," he grinned, "you bleed like the rest." The air rasped. "So much for your myth." The assassin rolled his neck once and took a step forward. Kale's grin faltered. The storm outside Zerak-Ka howled. The city watched in frozen horror. Live feeds had cut out. Backup optics melted from the heat of the sanctum's blast. Not even the satellites above could see inside. But they knew. The blade had reached the air, and the air had not come out. Panic bled through the upper tiers. Warlords barked into comms. Fleets repositioned. Dagger-brood leaders whispered dark things into private channels. The Empire had long forgotten fear. Now, it was remembering. Kale Geron charged, not with technique, with rage. He barreled through the flames like a wounded comet, bellowing a war cry that had shattered lesser men's sanity. His fangs dripped venom. His claws, one remaining, slashed wide, aiming to rip the assassin's skull in half. The blade moved, but not away. He stepped into the strike, let the claw tear his shoulder open, and drove the void blade straight into Kale's side, sliding between the third and final heart. The air screamed. It wasn't a roar, not a war cry. It was pain, pure, ancient pain, the kind warriors don't admit they can feel. The assassin twisted the blade. Kale buckled, his massive body falling to one knee, then the other. His claw lashed weakly, missed. He collapsed. Hard. The silence that followed was unnatural. Wrong. And then, Elias Creed, once a father, now only a storm-given flesh, knelt beside the dying heir. Kale coughed blood. You're just a man. Elias looked at him and said something no warlord had heard in generations. Good. He left the blade in Kale's chest. Not for drama. For message. Let the Empire know it wasn't poison. Not sabotage. Not war. One man. One weapon. One cause. As Elias walked from the sanctum, dragging his shattered arm behind him, alarm shrieked in full resurrection mode. The vault's AI reinitialized. Floodlights snapped on. Emergency troops descended. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He walked, slowly, leaving footprints in the blood of the future. They met him in the Hall of Judges, a battalion of elites. 60 men and women in armor worth more than most colonies. Plasma weapons trained. Drones flanking. A general stepped forward, dropped the blade. Elias said nothing. He didn't even have the blade anymore. The general frowned. Drop to your knees then. Hands up. Still nothing. Elias looked at him, just looked, and something inside the general cracked. Fire. They did. 17 plasma rounds. 2 missiles. A rail spike. Elias vanished. A blink. The rail spike returned first, launched backward. It struck the drone behind the general, exploding on impact. Chaos erupted. Screams. Sparks. Gunfire. Elias moved like death incarnate. Low. Silent. Sudden. 3 throats opened. 2 knees shattered. A 4th man had his spine folded backwards. He moved through them. By the time the smoke cleared, 23 were dead. The rest fled. Not retreated. Fled. Some left their weapons behind. High above, in the Warlord spire, panic turned to frenzy. The ruling council, 5 remaining warlords, watched from their private viewing spheres. All color drained from their faces. Warlord Drak, the eldest, snarled. His killing the bloodline. That was our future. Warlord Dima hissed. His rewriting the future. No more A's, muttered Heir. No more fear to control them. His dismantling our legend one piece at a time. A junior officer stumbled into the chamber. My lords, we have an emergency off-world. What kind of emergency? The officer's voice trembled. He's not alone anymore. While Elias stormed the capital, something else was happening on the outer colonies. Refugees rose. Slave camps fell. Entire prison rings were cut loose and turned into arcs. And at the head of each revolt, someone wearing the symbol of the blade. Not Elias, but followers, former soldiers, scavengers, revolutionaries. He had become more than a killer. He was an idea now, an idea with teeth. Back in the sanctum's rubble, Kale Geron lay dying. But he wasn't dead. Not yet. The AI had activated medical override protocols, bathing his body in nanofoam and stasis light. His remaining heart flickered. In the darkness of his mind, the voices returned. The former heirs, the ancestral tyrants. And for the first time, they were silent. He screamed inside, not in pain. In rage. He would not be remembered as a last. He would not die as a warning. Across the stars, Elias stood on the bow of a stolen battle cruiser, looking out across the wreckage of the Zaltoon fleet over Zerak Ka. He said nothing, but behind him, in the shadows of the command bridge, stood 9 others, each silent, each armed, each with eyes like his. War had not ended. It had begun. A world burns differently when it knows it's dying. From orbit, Zerak Ka no longer resembled a crown of civilization. It looked like a fractured skull, smoking, bleeding, groaning under the pressure of collapse. The outer districts were ash. The atmosphere boiled. Oceans hissed into vapor. Elias Creed stood on the observation deck of the commandeered dreadnought Blackthorn, arms folded, ribs bandaged in black polymer tape, breath steady despite the pain. The 9 warrior behind him, his shadows, his believers, was silent. Zerak Ka core defenses had finally activated. Planetary AI was online. The last protocols had engaged. They were too late. The throne was shattered. The heir was gone. And the warlords, they were waiting to die. In the deepest chamber of the spire, the 5 surviving warlords had sealed themselves in. No more troops, growled Warlord Dima, her eyes wild. No more fleets. No reinforcements. No empire. We are still the Circle, Warlord Heir snapped, stabbing a clawed finger toward the holographic map, which flickered with every orbital detonation. We outlasted the Vaughn Plague. We outlasted the June Collapse. One man, cannot undo us. "You're wrong," a voice said behind them. Every warlord froze, because that voice did not come from among them. They turned slowly, and found Elias Creed standing inside the chamber. No gun, no army, no speech. Just him, and the blade he had taken back from Kale's corpse. The warlord screamed for guards that would never come. Yer moved first, his armor swelling with injectors, his body expanded, triple-jointed limbs flexing, face splitting into a maw of screaming bone. He charged. Elias sidestepped. One cut. The blade whispered through the air. Flesh parted. Yer collapsed, bisected at the chest, eyes still blinking as his lungs spilled across the floor. Warlord Dima activated a defense field, plasma walling her in a cube of energy. "You can't reach me," she spat. "You think justice is one blade." Elias looked her in the eye. "No," he said. "Justice is me." He tossed a black orb through the field. She laughed, until it didn't explode. It unraveled, unfolded into a spider-like device. It crawled up her leg, and then screamed. A sonic detonation built for cerebral rupture went off inside the cube. Blood leaked from her ears before she collapsed, twitching. 2 down, 3 left. Warlord Cran begged. He fell to his knees, hands up, tears streaming. "I funded the off-world schools. I voted against the child mines. We're not all the same. Spare me, and I'll disappear. I'll leave. I swear." Elias Creed walked forward, knelt, and put a hand on Cran's shoulder. "I believe you," he whispered. Cran wept harder. "Thank why." Creed crushed his windpipe with one motion. No hesitation, no fury, just completion, like closing a door. The fourth warlord, Drak, the oldest, did not fight. He did not plead. He simply looked at Elias as the assassin approached, his one eye scanning that scarred face. "You're not vengeance," he said. "You're correction." Elias nodded, and drove the blade through his skull. One remained, Warlord Trez, and she ran, down hallways carved from alien stone, through corridors lined with skulls of conquered species, past statues of ancestors who believed their legacy eternal. She screamed into her Riscom emergency teleport. "Override! Take me OFF world!" Nothing answered, not even static. She turned a final corner, and Elias was there, waiting. She froze. "You're not human anymore," she hissed. "You can't be. You can't. I haven't been since you murdered my son. Your son was a rebel. He was 8. He stepped forward. She backed away. "No one will remember you," she screamed. "We'll bury your name." He raised the blade. "That's the point." And then he ended it. The spire collapsed behind him. As he emerged into the firelight of the ruined city, the skies rumbled. The revolution below, sparked by his vengeance, was complete. Ships rose from the surface, bearing civilians, refugees, the enslaved, the outcast. He had burned a capital to dust, but in doing so had given birth to something worse than war. Hope. Elias Creed never smiled. Not once. Not when the people cheered. Not when the flags were torn down. Not even when Kale Geron's face was projected across the stars with a void blade stuck through his chest. He did not come for praise. He did not stay for power. He simply stood beneath the broken sky and vanished. No one saw him again. No one ever found a body. But in the decades that followed, warlords died quietly in their beds, poisoned, cut, suffocated, one by one. Whispers passed through the galaxy. Some said he had become a myth, a curse, a story mothers told tyrants to make them afraid of the dark. Some said he was dead. Others said he had become death itself. But the galaxy remembered one thing. They had laughed at a lone assassin, and he had answered with silence, and a blade,